Roxo Media House.
Hi folks, Brian Estridge from Frogs Today and FrogsToday.com here. You know, every week we try to keep you up to date on everything going on around the world of TCU athletics. We dive deep into X's and O's with Coach David Bowden. Our reporters on the scene, Jeff Wilson, Jamie Plunkett, Drew Davis, and Melissa Triwasser. They're as good as you're going to find anywhere. And we get to know our coaches and players here from a football and basketball and baseball perspective at TCU. But every so often, we get a chance to get personal. And we do that here today with the First Lady of TCU football. It's an opportunity for us to go one-on-one with Kate Dykes. We get the chance to visit with her in her suite in the south end zone of Amon G. Carter Stadium. Here's our conversation right now that began with a simple question. Do you get nervous on game days?
I do. Sometimes more leading up, like during the week, as the week goes on or as it progresses, I kind of anticipate the game. And on game day, you're just ready to go. Yeah. But I do get nervous. I get quiet, which I'm not a quiet person.
Right.
So that's how I know, like, okay, it's about to be game time because I kind of get quiet or, you know, not as loud as I normally am.
Now, because you grew up around coaches.
I did.
Your grandfather's a legendary coach.
Absolutely. And my dad.
And your dad was a coach. And
my older brother.
And your older brother who coaches at UTEP. The football stadium, as a matter of fact, at Wichita Falls, named after your grandfather,
right? It sure is.
Yeah. And so I wonder if that's a product of that as a week goes on, you get a little more quiet.
Probably. And I think in our house, that's kind of what happened. And being an athlete, too, I played sports, and so you know, it was all fun, and then the day of a game, you kind of got more quiet, more focused. So I just kind of feel like that's how our home operates a little bit. I mean, it's still crazy with the 3 kids. It doesn't really get that quiet, but I feel like we kind of go that way during a game week.
So on game day, I mean, do you not want to be distracted? Are you zoned in on every play?
During the game, yes. So, like, the first game this year, we had, like, tons of kids. I let the kids invite a bunch of friends, and then as the, season progresses and you get in conference, it's more like, okay, I'm actually not going to chat with people. I'm just going to sit and watch.
Good.
Yeah. So it's more fun for me to focus.
So you watch the game. You're watching it intently.
Yes. I'm a yeller.
You're a yeller. Is there a post-game conversation about the game ever?
No, but what's funny is when Sonny's dad, Spike, was still alive, he'd always call me on Sundays and say, okay, I want you to talk to Sonny about this. And I would always have to laugh and say, Spike, that is not going to go over very well if I go into Sonny and say, hey, by the way, your dad said if you would do X, Y, Z, So not really. Sonny's really good about football is our life.
Yes.
Obviously, it's what, it encompasses a huge part of our life. But he doesn't really come home and bring football home, which is hard to imagine. No. But so if he brings it up, then I'll ask questions or kind of say. Otherwise, a lot of times, like he's got a lot of other interests. He loves food. He loves good movies, and so we'll talk about that or a show or the kids, what the kids are doing. So
I was going to get into that a little bit later on. In fact, I'd written down that he's not your typical football coach.
No,
he's very, and I don't want to use the word eccentric because people make that.
But eclectic,
yeah, eclectic would be the word. Yes.
He always say this. I'm like So Koz is the same way. Koz loves music, like Sonny.
Loves astrology.
Yeah, all the things, right? And so I used to always laugh. I'm like, the two of y'all should go on a show because we used to play this game with Sonny where we would say, okay, open like Pandora or Spotify, one of those. Right. And go to like country to 80s to, it doesn't matter what genre. He can name the song. A lot of times he can tell you what album and what year.
Oh, wow.
And you cannot stump him. And we've tried.
Now, I wonder if that's from all the years on the road recruiting.
I think so,
Radio's playing.
And he loves the arts.
Yeah.
And so I think it's always kind of been a passion. But yes, I do think just being in the car, because back then you drove everywhere for recruiting. Right. You didn't really, fly, so.
That's funny because I did read that in one place that you guys are both sort of into the arts.
We are. We love it. It's fun. We love concerts. We're music people. Love theater, movies.
That's
we
cool.
I like your typical love story movie. I like a happy
ending. You like
the
rom-coms?
Oh yes,
Like that.
So we kind of have different tastes.
I was going to say, what is he liking though?
No, he likes like super kind of out there movies.
Yeah.
He likes everything.
Yeah.
He's just a lover of film.
Right. That's pretty cool, though. I mean,
I know.
And that's good that he doesn't bring it home. Because I wondered growing up in Wichita Falls for you, was it all about
It was.
football all the time?
Yes. And so when my brothers graduated, my dad actually went to being the girls' head basketball coach to coach me.
And you played, yes.
And I played.
Yeah.
And he was my track coach. Or not the head track coach, but coached
Right.
me in hurdles. And so it never left. It was just our life.
It was always about. Now, did he talk about it at home, though, your dad? Like, would he
Yes.
talk about practice?
To me, yes.
Hey, listen, when we're running that
Yes.
three-man league, you got to get down there quicker.
Yes.
He would
And
give us
I am a little competitive, and so sometimes I would butt heads with my dad, and,
Right.
and it was easy to make me the example for the whole team.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
the way it works sometimes.
So it was fun, though.
Yeah.
But it was definitely more prevalent in the house when I was playing and he was my coach
Okay.
than it is currently.
Being in Fort Worth has kind of got to feel like home to you,
It
doesn't it?
feels
I mean, you're 90
totally
minutes
like
away.
home. I know. And there is a lot of Wichita Falls here,
Yeah.
which is awesome. And it just feels like home. It just feels, to me, it feels like a big city, but a small community, which
Right.
is awesome because everyone's kind and everyone knows somebody. And it is kind of like, okay, well, I know Brian. Okay, great. Well, Brian's sister is this person.
Yep.
And that's, so it makes it fun because I feel like, you feel like you're a part of something.
You spent a year here in 2017.
Yes.
Did you know then that this could be a place where you could live? I mean, did you feel it at the time, or?
For sure.
Yeah.
And, that was such a amazing year for our family, and so grateful that Gary and Kelsey gave us that year because we needed it, and
Yeah.
it was awesome. And the really cool thing is we already had friends in our life from nothing to do with football, just, different things in our life that we had friends that lived here.
Right.
So it was awesome because we just got to kind of be people
Yeah.
and have friends, and which in this business, that's hard when you move.
Yes.
Especially for Sonny, he spends so much time in the office that to really cultivate relationships that don't have anything to do with football, it's hard to find time to do that because if he has off, he's going to be with kids or, with the family. And so that was so fun for us in Fort Worth as we have friends,
Yeah. And it does, and being close to, as we said, to Wichita Falls, you had a
Yes.
base, so you kind of knew some folks.
We
It
have
makes it
grandma and
easier.
Umpa and G-Daddy, that's who they are in our
Yeah,
family.
So that's good.
But they can get here fast.
That's right. Let me ask you. Let's go backwards.
Okay.
All right. We talked a little bit about Wichita Falls and your upbringing. Did you know that you would marry someone in sports because you were around it so much?
I don't know. I always thought I would do something. I wanted to be a sideline reporter
Yeah.
for a long time. So I always thought like either I'll do work in sports or maybe I'll marry someone who's in sports I never thought college.
Right.
Honestly, just my dad was a high school coach. So I just kind of thought, or maybe I'll coach. I knew that I would probably never rid myself of having sports in my life just because it was such a huge part of our life growing up. I don't know if I thought I would marry one, but I
Right.
thought it'd be in my life in some capacity.
So you're in Wichita Falls. Did you go to Tech?
I went to Tech.
You went to Tech.
Parents went to Tech.
Okay. So you're out at Tech.
Yep.
And are you out of school when you meet Sonny?
Yeah, well, kind of. So our families knew each other.
Right.
So I knew of him. He and I didn't really know each other. Our parents did.
Right.
And I worked in the SID office.
Okay.
And they were awesome. And so we kind of got to meet each other in passing. And then once I was leaving Tech, ran into him and he said, hey, what are you going to do? It was honestly really casual. And I said, I'm trying to get into sports, casting somehow or get an internship even at that rate. And he said, well, I might have some connections to help you. So I looked his phone number up. He asked for my number, I think, and I said no. But I looked his phone number up and left a message and just said, I think you said you would maybe help me,
Yeah.
with the contact. And we just kind of started talking. It was very simple. It didn't really start as anything because I moved to Houston to work.
Okay.
And he was in Lubbock, and we just started dating. I know.
I want to go back to you said no.
I know. I don't really know why because I thought he was really cute.
Yeah.
So I don't know why.
You just thought, no.
Maybe I got nervous. Maybe I thought, is that too forward to be like, yes, here's my number.
Right. So, so you did the reaching out though.
I left a message and just said, you told me you might help me with a job.
Right. So he calls you back.
He does call me back. And we talked through the summer, and then I ended up going to Lubbock that fall for a game and thinking, well, he's pretty awesome. And then we just started, it just happened.
Really?
I mean, he was an older bachelor.
Yep.
And so I honestly didn't, it was really natural. I didn't even really think, I don't think either one of us at the time thought either one of us were looking for anything, but.
How long did you guys date?
2 years.
2 years, okay.
Yes. We've been married 16.
Right.
Together 18.
So you dated 2 years, and was there a point where you thought, man, I could be a coach's wife?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it was fun. I think too at the very beginning, it's like a whirlwind. You're trying to figure it all out, but it is fun because you're still in sports. It keeps you engaged with young people, and so I mean, it was fun from the beginning.
What'd you think of his parents?
Oh, they're awesome.
Yeah.
I know they were really the best. It does make me sad that they're not here to see him at TCU because they'd be
I get the sense
really
they
proud.
know, though.
They definitely know.
They know.
They know.
I'm sure Spike's not missing a game.
No, definitely not. And Sonny was the baby of 3.
Right.
And definitely, I think, the sweetest spot for his mom. So.
Yeah. Well, I'd say it's been fun to get to know him because we were talking earlier about the fact that he's not your typical football coach.
Right.
Because I also get the sense that family for him is super important.
He is very intentional.
Yeah.
With his time with me. He always carves out time for me and for our kids and for family and for good quality time too. I think that's so important for him. His sister always laughs with our kids. He's like, she'll say, you have no idea how good you have it. I mean, your dad comes to a volleyball game. My dad couldn't come to anything.
Yeah.
Back then, and my grandfather the same way didn't really do a lot because that's just not what you did. It was the mentality you had to work all the time,
Yeah.
So he's very intentional.
Sonny told me this story about we have a mutual friend. Named Gary Griffin. He told me Gary Griffin's the first one to hold him when he was born.
Yes.
That Spike sent Gary Griffin to the hospital.
I know.
Hey,
Probably.
go check on my wife and son.
I know, which is crazy. but I mean, that's how they did it,
Yes. It worked back then.
Exactly.
No one questioned it.
No. Now, it's not how you have to do it, which is awesome.
Yeah. Does he find time for date night still?
Yes, Thursday. So tonight.
Okay.
It's date night.
Is date night?
Yes.
Okay.
Every Thursday.
And will y'all go to dinner?
Normally we go to dinner.
Uh-huh.
And some nights we stay in, but just, get the kids to bed and make sure that we have quality time together.
Good.
But Thursdays are date nights.
Yeah.
And we do try to walk together during the week. Sometimes just carve out like an hour where because by the time he gets home and I'm getting kids to bed, it's hectic and you're tired and it's been a long day and you just kind of want to sit and be quiet. So walking during the day where we can catch up is good.
Yeah. So he is intentional about at least carving out. But you make a point of, you come up here often as well. Like I see you guys having lunch together and things of that nature, right?
And I try to come up to practice. And even if I'm not here the whole practice, just come at the end of practice where honestly, yes, to see Sonny, but also just to be around the players where I'm checking in, making sure they see me,
right.
Being consistent with my presence.
I loved what you guys did when you first got here. You guys took some time over the holiday, and you went and visited with all the current players and their families.
We tried to. We obviously couldn't get to everyone, but it was important just because change is hard.
Yeah.
Change is hard when you're an adult. Change is really hard when you're the age range that these student athletes are. And I think, too, because the expectations for a student athlete is so high that your comfort or if something's changed and where you felt comfort, if that's not steady anymore, that's hard. You're asking a lot of young people to just, immediately say, okay, yeah, I'm on board. Here we go.
Do you think they can relate to you more, too, because you were an athlete, too?
I think sometimes, and I think more than anything, I always say this, sometimes I feel like society sells young people short. They're very smart, and they're very intuitive. So I think the most important thing you can do, whether it's our own kids or student athletes, is to be honest and genuine. And I think they trust that. They'll trust the process. It might take some time, but I think they just want honesty.
Don't you find that 20-year-olds today know some. I'm speaking for me. They know so much more than I did.
Sonny and I talk about that a lot. They are so much more mature,
Yeah.
and just kind of more worldly equipped,
Yes.
I think, than I did. When I think of myself at 20, I'm like, you know, I couldn't have accomplished in a day what they accomplish in a day. You know, they do that, and I think sometimes too that perception of what is asked of a student athlete, like what their day looks like, the outside world doesn't really know what all they, what time they wake up, the training, the rehab, of an injury, the practice, the
class.
meals, the classes, the study halls, all
Yeah.
that. It's a long day.
Yeah.
And they do it every day.
I look at some of the classes that they take, and I realized when I was in college, I was in the 13th grade.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It was
And
not even close.
and I mean, Amari's going to have a doctorate,
Right.
which is unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. I
really
mean,
cool.
It's cool to see him grow, and
Absolutely.
it's got to make you proud to see how this team has bought in.
They are really remarkable young men. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. It really has to be a part of it, and I think too it's an honor. It's their team, and they have allowed our family to be a part of it, and it's really awesome. I mean, it's Daniel had a birthday, our youngest, on Monday, and it was so cool because all these players reached out, and you think usually that happens like year 2 or year 3 with players that have been around your family and they feel really comfortable, and here we are year 1. They're just really fine young men, and they work hard and have great attitudes, and it's really been fun to be a part of.
I told someone the other day on an interview, I said, I'm sure he has made a mistake, but I haven't seen it yet in the transition with Coach Dykes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's no different than even for me. There's always things you go back and say, could I have handled that better? Should I have handled that better? The one thing I love I love a lot of things about Sonny, but I love that he's not afraid to ever come back and say, you know what, I messed up. And that's hard to do. And he's taught me that, where now, I try to do a better job of, pausing. I'm an impulsive person a little bit, in a game, especially when my brother's coaching basketball, I'm like at the ref because I just want to yell right away. But
you never loved UTEP so much in your life.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Who knew? But I think he does a good job of taking a second, assessing, and if he needs to retract or say, you know what, I messed up, or that's not right, he's willing to do it, which is not a trait I think you see a lot.
The other thing you don't see from a guy who's been kind of in the role that he's been, highly successful as a coach, dad was a successful coach, is, and I'm going to use the word humble, but I'll give you an example. We're at the radio show the other night, and a gentleman comes up to him and he said, hey, Coach, I wasn't sold on you, but I think I'm sold on you now. And Coach Dykes says, well, thank you for that. He said, what's your name? And the guy told him his name, and Sonny said, I'm Sonny Dykes. He didn't assume, the guy knew who he was or knew his name, which to me says a little bit about you. That, you think of yourself in the terms of, let me introduce myself to you.
Right. I mean, again, I always say this, I'm partial. Obviously, I love him, but he is a really, really good person.
Yeah, you can tell.
And he cares, and he tries hard. And in this business, that to really care about people, it makes it hard sometimes, because I think he and I both really care and try our very hardest to be intentional. But that also sets you up to let people down, or to hurt people's feelings here or there, or the words they say hurt you because you care. But we always say we'd rather do that than not. I mean, it's worth whatever little heartache might come because of that, because, this business has ups and downs, but for me, the perks way outweigh the negatives, because you get to have a lot of wonderful relationships with people and expose your kids to different ways of life and different environments, and but he manages all that well because he is humble.
Yeah. The other thing is that when you see him interact with people, he's not afraid to show emotion.
No, and I love that.
What he said about Max Duggan a couple of weeks ago, you could tell that was genuine. That wasn't football coach talk. That was
A dad.
yes, very much so.
And I think it's so important. I mean, he's very vulnerable with our kids, which I think is awesome because they know it's okay to be themselves. And I think you expect it from a mom maybe, and I think it's good for our student athletes to see that.
Yet there's a competitive side to him.
You should see us play Monopoly together.
Well, I want to get into that because
Yeah.
I know that's a big deal. But I mean, you see him, like, and he and I have joked about this a couple of times. You see him with officials. You know, there's a conversation going on there. I could tell that he does not like to lose, does he? You know, that there is a sternness that can come out.
Yes. Yes.
And I've seen him with players who have he's had to have that conversation with, right?
And he will.
Yeah.
The good thing is he doesn't do it that often unless he has to.
Right.
And he parents the same way, which is awesome because if he puts his foot down, then the kids know, okay, we need to.
Also get the sense that he can move on from things pretty easily.
So much better than me.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just my personality, but he can process it, deal with it, and get through it.
All right, let's get into game night because I know that's important to you guys.
Oh yes.
So
I can beat him at Rummy.
Okay.
Rummy Cube.
Right, Rummy Cube. My wife's good at that.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Our daughter has only lost 3 times though, so Allie will beat us all in Rummy all the time. Sonny in Monopoly, I think he cheats.
Okay.
But he says he doesn't. I think Allie cheats too. But pretty much any other game they're going to beat me.
Where do you find time?
Well, when we vacation.
Okay.
So when we have free time, I feel like we play games just because otherwise you just sit in front of a TV.
Yeah.
Or, you're kind of doing mindless things. So we'll play cards or play games. And then at the house sometimes too, after a while I'm like, okay, let's turn the TV off. Let's just go play a game or do something.
Your house, though, is it's open. Let's just put it that way.
Yes.
Yeah, you've got recruits in a lot.
Yep.
You've got student athletes in a lot. Your 3 kiddos, I mean, they've got 125 brothers.
100%.
Yeah. And I bet they like that, don't
Oh, they love it. Especially the girls, until we had Daniel. I mean, they didn't have a brother, an actual brother, So for them, it was so cool. And still feel the same way. And then for Daniel, it's like the end all be all because there is, he worships all of them. And so it's really fun.
Speaking of Daniel, I love the fact that after the win against Kansas, before Coach did any media, he hopped on a Facebook call.
I know.
Yeah.
And the best part was Daniel said, hey, can I FaceTime Dad, but could you actually go get Max? I'm like, well, I'm not going back in the locker room to get Max, but yes, I know.
How do you handle, when you do take them to games, how do you handle the criticism?
Yeah, that's hard because for them, it's still their dad.
Yeah.
So a lot of time, it bothers me more when they talk about players. Because I think, listen, there is no football if there's not players down there playing. And they're giving everything to play, And so that bothers me. I don't really, if it's about coaching, that doesn't, everyone's going to have a bad day here or there or not make a perfect call. So I can kind of blow that off. If they attack him as a person, that is hard for me.
Yeah.
So then I have to, really try to be really well behaved.
Right. Because I would think that, I mean, if it was my spouse and someone,
It's hard.
I want to punch him.
Yeah, it's really hard. And you have to rise above,
Right.
which is not always fun.
Yeah.
So I just have to learn I can think it, I can't say it.
Yeah. It feels like the staff that you guys have put together, that Coach has put together, has a real family feel to it.
It does. It's an awesome staff. And we've been really lucky. We've had really good staffs in the past that, have been made up of awesome families. But this one especially is really something special. The wives are great. I think you have a age range, you've got people that have been in the business forever. You have newer people that are in the business that people have kind of coached all over. So you have a lot of different, I think you cover a lot of bases with this staff, which is awesome because I think having a little bit of that diversity in terms of their, coaching styles, how long they've coached, where they've coached, it kind of evens everything out.
What's your role with them? What's your role with the other wives? Or is there one?
I don't really I just want to be another wife,
Yeah.
but we do a lot together.
Yeah.
I mean, so I do try to make sure. I mean, we have contact with each other every day. We have a
Little text chain
yes.
going.
But I just want to make sure that they feel comfortable. They know they're welcome. Their kids are welcome. But I just want to be even with them.
But if one of them needs help finding a realtor or something like that,
Absolutely.
everybody kind of chips
yes,
in.
Everyone
That's
does.
what I figured, yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like, I need a pediatrician, or
Right.
who fixes my air conditioner. It's one big giant family.
Yeah. Well, and everybody just calls Joe Gillespie to fix everything,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So, Joe, come to my house.
Yeah, it works out that way. Because there have been, you said you've been lucky that all the staffs you've had, everybody's kind of gotten along.
Yes.
And I wonder when Coach goes to hire that staff,
I definitely think that's important.
I was going to say, do you get to meet the wife and?
Sometimes I've known the wives, maybe prior, or I'll meet them in the process,
Yeah.
or meet the coaches where you can kind of get a feel.
Right.
But, I do think it matters when
think
in the
so.
hiring process of like, will they gel with the staff, or is there, the worst thing, and it doesn't matter if you're in banking or in football or in your personal life, you just don't want a ton of things to rock the boat constantly, and so I think making sure you have someone who fits with what you already have or the staff you're creating is important.
I hear a word here, and I get this drama.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, we don't need drama, huh?
No drama.
Yeah, I like that. Are you a planner?
Yes.
So, like you said, you try to be intentional with them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you plan things?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, when you go on vacation, are you a planner?
Yes. Sonny would say yes. I think I've gotten better.
Right.
I teeter on like being OCD, where I love everything to have a place and an order. So much so that sometimes he'll say, "Kate, what did you do with my cup?"
Right.
I'm like, well, I was sitting there. I put it in the dishwasher. He was like, I wasn't finished.
Right.
But I'm like, order. Everything's got a place. I am a planner, though.
But are you like, when you go on vacation, is there an itinerary?
Usually.
There is?
Loose one.
Yeah.
Used to be really rigid.
Right.
Now I'm like, we're just going to do this today at some point. Let's accomplish
That's
it.
all. Just give me this.
Yes.
And I'm happy, right?
Mm-hmm. And he and I are very different that way.
Oh, really?
He's a very planned person in his profession.
Right.
Or his professional
Yeah,
life.
to the minute.
Yes, but personally, he's so laid back.
Yeah.
And I'm much more high strung.
And I read an article, you guys go to Mexico, and you said that's really
Yes.
kind of the only place that
He is totally can decompress there.
Really?
It's my
Does it take him a few days?
No, off the plane.
Really? Mm-hmm. And then as you know your time's about to wind down, though.
Now, on the back end of it, when we're about to leave, you can see, he'll get a little bit more quiet, But the kids are always like, it's vacation, Dad.
That's awesome.
Not that he's awesome all the time, but
No.
he is he's the cool dad. Where when they're like, let's go play Newcomb, and I'm like, oh, I'm so tired, I just want to sit here. He's like, yes, let's go play Newcomb. So he really is the fun dad.
Who cooks?
We actually both do.
Really?
We really
That's
do.
odd. You don't find that. Usually it's one or the other.
No, I know. We both do. We both love to cook. And I always say this, but the year we went 1-11 at Cal, I felt like grilling for him, being outside, was almost therapeutic because he could come home and the weather was great, so you could do a lot of cooking outside. We built this awesome pizza oven, and he really got into cooking. And he was he would help before that, but that year I felt like it was fun for him. And he and our oldest, Allie, they have a book called The Science of Cooking. It's a cookbook, and they have read it, front and back. So they like to cook together, and but he's really good.
That's all. I was going to ask, what is he really good at that we wouldn't know?
Oh, lots of things. Okay, let me think about this. He is trivia.
Yeah.
Anything like that. He's really wicked smart.
Yeah, you could tell that.
Scored very high on his SAT. I had to try really, really, really hard and didn't do, so trivia. I'm trying to think of what else he's really good at. Everything. I will work really hard at playing pickleball, let's say, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to take him on and I'm going to win. And he will beat me 11-1. And he might not ever pick up a pickleball thing. He's just a winner. I know that sounds weird, but I just feel like it figures out for him.
That's awesome.
You know?
Is he bad at anything?
I mean, his car's not really clean. He loves sunflower seeds, and so normally there's like some dumped on the ground.
Can he dance?
He is a good dancer. He did the worm one time. It wasn't the best worm,
Right,
so
right.
we could improve the worm.
Yeah.
It was after a win in the locker room. It probably could have been improved, but that might be his only flaw.
Can
Is
he
the
sing?
worm. He can sing better than me,
Um,
which is not saying much. And I was in the Wichita Falls High School choir.
You were?
So that is really unfortunate.
did y'all win any awards?
We did, but a lot of them, it was like, Kate, just don't sing that part.
Just lip sync. What's the hardest part of being a coach's wife?
I think probably the hardest part is trying to manage expectations for your kids when it comes to time with their dad.
Yeah.
Because I think just as our society is now, both parents are so much more present at like kids' functions. I mean, even 20 years ago, dads didn't go to every choir concert or
every practice.
You know, all this stuff. And I think it happens now that sometimes I think that I always have to remind the kids, like, that is not how it's always been, though.
Yeah.
And it's actually better for y'all to pave your own way and not have your dad and I micromanage your life. But just kind of managing that, you know, we're making sure that, and I just really, it's more of me making sure, like, when I can get them up here to him or, you know, managing that because they worship him, obviously, and he does them.
What's the worst part? I mean, that's the worst part.
Yeah.
What's the best part?
I think the best part is getting to be around a bunch of young people that, I always say this, but they keep you honest because you have to be. And you have to say, if I say, hey, I'm going to do this for you, then I have to. It holds you accountable, you know? And I love being able to surround our kids, too, with people from all different walks of life where, you know, they understand how important it is to work hard. They see, you know, all these guys work hard. They're accountable. They have to show up when you say you're going to show up and do something. And life's not always going to be the easy, you know, whatever. If you want to be really great at something, it's not going to be easy.
Yes.
And we talk about that a lot in our house. Our oldest is a ballerina, and it gets hard sometimes. And she misses out on social things. And it's easy for us to say, if you really care about it, though, think about how often dad's players miss out on things, or, you know, and so I do think it's a good motivator.
Do you ever wake up? Have you ever woken up on a day and said, I do not want to be the head coach's wife today. I just want to be in sweats and a hat, and I want to go out to the grocery store.
Yes. Last year during the transition, that was hard, like leaving Dallas.
Yeah. But you made it through, though.
We did. But no, I shouldn't say that. I never have. It really is an honor.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's besides being a mom and being his wife, it's my favorite job. People always say, do you have a job? I'm like, yes, I do. Because I take a lot of pride in being a good head coach's wife. And I've made a lot of mistakes along the way because you don't know what you don't know. Or if you haven't been through a certain predicament or experience. So I've made mistakes for sure. But try to learn from them and do better and lead better. And
What's the best thing about Fort Worth?
oh my goodness, all the things. I think that we as a family feel like we belong, you know, and that we have friends and the community's welcomed us and just kind people. Our oldest got in the car, I guess last week or the week before. Sonny made it to a volleyball game. And she got in the car and she shut the door and she looked at us and she said, don't y'all just love Fort Worth? And for me, I'm like, that's it. Yeah. That's the pinnacle for me. Yeah. Our kids are happy. We're happy. It's an awesome place to live. It's really special. And we're grateful because we know we're lucky.
Let's close with this. Give me a few words, adjectives, that would describe Sonny and Kate's relationship.
Steady, loving, and intentional.
How would you describe him in 3 words?
Oh, I have a lot of words. Let's see. Witty. It's kind of a lame answer, but kind. He's the kindest person I know. And humble.
And what would he say about you?
Loud. I'm just kidding. Talkative. I'm a hard worker. And he is a hard worker. I should have said that. I don't know, hopefully kind.
All right, final thing was charitable organizations, because you had been involved in the Big Brothers Big Sisters, or was it Boys
and Girls Club.
Boys and Girls Club in Dallas. And so tell me what pulls at your heart. What
Young
makes you
people,
tick that way?
For sure. I just think anytime you can help someone who might need a little extra boost when they're younger, you have the chance to really change the trajectory of their life. And there's so many awesome organizations out there that deal with young people or help young people or advocate for young people. And I just think that's really important, especially, the great thing about the DFW area is that you can really serve a lot of youth, which is awesome, and in a lot of different ways. And there's a million programs, whether it's an academic resource program or an after-school resource program. There's this amazing organization. Her name is Shawana Carter. It's called Carter's House, and I just adore her. But she is a supplier of uniforms to DISD kids who might not be able to otherwise afford uniforms. And it's a simple task, and she works tirelessly to collect clothes and used uniforms and, gets them to kids. And so there's a million ways you can serve, and it's just always a pleasure to be able to help in any way.
Yeah. When Sonny's dad passed, what was that like on him?
That was probably the darkest day for him. I mean, he was in a meeting at the football office, and I had to call. Giselle actually answered, and I had to say, I need you to go get Sonny because his dad's had a heart attack. And it was hard. He was such a pillar of their family, of our family, that it was really hard.
Did he talk through it with you at all?
He did. It took him a little bit to, he was kind of quiet about it. And then as some time passed, he passed in April. And, by that summer, I felt like he had really processed as best as you can. I mean, I don't know if you ever really fully process it or get through it, but he did. It was hard, though.
I told him the story that a friend of mine told me, that his secretary cleaned out his desk after he had left Tech. And Sonny said he'd never heard the story, and she found stacks of checks where he had lent people money over the years, but never cashed the checks that they paid him back with.
That does not surprise me.
Don't you think that one day we'll hear a story about Sonny like that?
For sure.
Some way.
For sure. That's why I said, he's just the kindest man. I really won the lottery with him because I think in today's world, people measure success a lot of different ways, and he's been very successful professionally, but he is, I think his greatest success is that he's just who he is, which is a product of his parents and his family, and he's just a really good man, which is awesome.
There's your close. Thank you. A little insight from the First Lady there of TCU football. Kate Dykes, thank you very much for joining us here on this special edition from Frogs Today. We invite you to obviously go to our website, frogstoday.com. You'll find all the latest TCU info there. We want you to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Make sure you subscribe to FrogsToday.com and to our YouTube channel for all the latest on TCU. For Kate Dykes, I'm Brian Estridge. Thanks for joining us here on Frogs Today.